Welcome back to Inside the Wolf's Den with your hosts, Shawn and Joni Wolfswinkel. Today we have just an episode with you and I.
Yeah,
I was going to say
you're going to say a guest, and there's no guest. I was looking at the screen, wondering who's coming in.
But I'm looking at the topic today, and it's kind of spicy.
Spicy.
Yeah, it's spicy.
I didn't think when I created it, I didn't think it was going to be spicy, but okay. But it's just, we're going to talk about building a business while maintaining and improving your relationship. So with your spouse, with your significant other.
Spicy.
Yeah, spicy. So it can be very spicy. And so, no, but I think it's this topic that comes up a lot, especially with Joni and I, because a lot of people see us, building a business together. Mm-hmm. They see us working together. And I think it's
easy, it's peachy, oh, how do you do it? Like, I want to do that. It's not always easy.
No.
It's a lot of work, but we work at it.
Correct. And we, I think if you've never built a business before, it's a lot. It takes a lot on yourself. It takes a lot in your relationship. And so that's why we want to really share some of the things that, yes, you can build a successful business and improve a relationship and have a great marriage or relationship with your significant other, but it's challenging.
It is.
And in both sides. And so, we get talked a lot, like, why are you guys still going in every day? Why are you working so hard? It's like, well, you obviously don't know what it takes to build a business, and it takes a ton of work.
Not just one business, and multiple businesses.
That's a different podcast. But we, for those that have never listened to us before or don't know our background, Joni and I are high school sweethearts. We've been together since we were 15, which is another rare feat upon itself. Just being in a relationship that lasts so long. And meeting so young. And then, we have started our first business at 19. And for the last 24 years, we've mainly been in the real estate space, real estate investing, property management, and lately in remote team members, virtual assistants, and also our plumbing company. So those are our main businesses that we run, but we work together every day.
We've been working together for 28 years, I think.
Quite that long.
I think 25.
So. But we started very young.
Yes.
And for those that don't see us every day, Joni and I's offices are right next door to each other.
That's a challenge in itself.
we hang out a lot. We go to lunch almost every day. And so like we don't drive in together. It's the only thing we don't do, because a lot of times our schedules we might have a meeting, or we leave at different times because of our kids and sports and all that. So, but we might only not see each other for like an hour a day. And so that I think is unique, very unique. And I think it's hard for people to understand as well. A lot of people say, there's no way I could ever do that. For us, we've made it work. And so I think, that's the background on us. And if you don't know us, that's our day to day, every day, 5 days a week.
Yeah.
And then we see each other all weekend. We don't have a lot of like guy friends, and you don't have a lot of girlfriends. We don't do a lot of things separate. So we work together. We hang out afterwards, after work together. We do a lot of things with our kids together.
People are listening to this like, man, that sounds really boring.
That sounds awful. No, but it works for us. And so I just, if you don't know that story on us or that background, that's we're pretty much together 24/7.
And I think like going back to you and I have both been very driven since early. I mean, and that's part of the reason why we work together, is because we were trying to achieve the same goals, right? But I mean, it is challenging, especially early on, trying to find your roles. Like, what are you good at versus what am I good at, right? And so, and sometimes, I mean, early on, there was a lot of overlap, and it's hard.
It's hard, yeah. And so before we get into, I want to get into some of the challenges, but we usually share this at the end of the show. And if you're like me and you listen to, I don't listen to like the last 5 minutes of any podcast. I don't think. I usually cut it off. I've heard enough and I shut off. So we just really appreciate if you guys would share this. We're trying to reach as many people as we can, and we need your help to support us, to share it. Please review it and hopefully give us 5 stars if you're enjoying it. But if there's somebody out there that you think could benefit from, seeing a couple working together, entrepreneurship, all that, we would greatly
share it with them
it.
as well.
So, but let's get into some of the challenges. So, what are some of the challenges of working together, building a business together, and also creating a marriage, or thriving marriage, a marriage that improves day in and day out? And let's just preface this too first, before I know I asked you a question, but the preface is just everybody's relationship is different. Everybody is in a different, this is just what's worked for Joni and I. Everybody else out there, you're on your own journey, we've been together since we were 15. We've been together the whole time. There's probably nobody, maybe there's one person out there that has the same story, but it's very rare. So we found each other very young. It worked out. It was the right match, but that is very unique. So please, know that going in, that, because I think there's people out there that are either they want to build, they're looking for their spouse, but they're building their own business on their own. So they're dating and they're trying to build a business. There's people that are in a relationship and one wants to start the business, or both do. There's people that are married and one wants to start a business, the other has no desire. There's people that wants to bring their wife or their husband into the business that they're building. All of you are on your different journey, and there's going to be things that are going to work for some and not for others. But let's get into the challenges.
Yeah. I mean, I think the challenge early on for us was, I think that you and I both were very driven. And so there can only be one boss, I think, right? And one leader. And I took the role of being that supporter. Like you lead this, and then, you were the visionary and I was the doer. You gotta get stuff done, right? And I was okay with that. And I think you have to be okay with that, because if you have two that are very driven and you both want to be the bosses and the leader, then you're going to step on a lot of toes.
And it's going to carry home.
Yes.
That's not going to make for a good dinner conversation if you're already mad at each other at work. And it changes.
It worked for us.
And there's seasons. Yeah. And I think there's seasons. We can talk about or references. There's seasons to every relationship and every cycle in a business and all that too. So also understand that there's times where you and I we'll throw ourselves into the business. But let's take it back. I think what makes it work for us is this first starting off, and what is going to make it successful and overcome a lot of challenges is you got to be on the same page with each other. When you're building a business, you got to have shared vision and shared goals. And so what worked for you and I at a very young age is that you and I were both extremely motivated, extremely driven. We had competitive, but we wanted the same exact goal and change. You weren't trying to do your own thing. I wasn't. We were all rowing towards the exact same goals. We were 100%. On page. And so it didn't, because you got to admit it. So Joni and I, in the beginning, we were together 7 years before we got married. We waited another 7 years before we had kids, after we were married. And so we spent 14 years before we had kids together. I understand some of that's high school, so that doesn't really count. But we spent a lot of time building a business and working on the business and putting the business almost first, right?
But also with that, I also think that you and I worked on ourselves too together. So we put a lot of work into self-development, improving ourselves, right? And we did that together. So it's not that Shawn was, reading books and listening to podcasts and, going to masterminds, right? And growing himself there. We both were doing that together, right? We were both growing at the same pace.
Correct. So, I mean, and even today, even after kids, which I know is hard to do, it got challenging, especially when the kids were a little bit younger. But yes, that's a great point, because almost every mastermind we've ever been to,
It's been you and I.
Shawn and Joni.
Yeah.
And so that's where we get this, Joan, what is it?
Shoni and John.
Shoni and John. Because they
mix us up together.
Yeah, they put our names together because they see us together all the time. So it's, yes. And so we, development wise, since we were young and all that, we were maturing and developing at the same pace. So not only we were facing the same business challenges together, we were overcoming them together. And so you and I were at the same pace. Yeah, which could be a challenge to a lot of other, where if one's only going to and it comes home super excited from a mastermind or whatever, and the spouse is like, I just took care of the kids for the last 5 days. I'm not so happy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then and you're not at the same page. And so like, yes, that what's worked for. And in the beginning, you and I, like I was saying, we waited a long time before we had kids because we wanted to be at a certain financial point in our lives where we could really dedicate and focus on our children. Because in the beginning, any business that you start, what is it? It's like 85% fail within the first 5 years, or 90%, and then I think only less than 5% or something like that make it past 10 years. So it takes a lot of energy. It takes a lot of focus to build a business, and so it almost takes a season of where that is your priority. And it wasn't that you and I were putting each other over, or the business over each other, because we were doing it together. Right. So it was a common. It was
something that we enjoyed doing together. So we would rather be at a business mastermind than be out there at the bar, hanging out with your friends or whatever you do on the weekends. Right.
And for whatever, just so you know, for whatever reason, masterminds always fell on Joni's birthday. It didn't matter any year. So she, for all these years, have really never celebrated her birthday because we're usually at a business function. Right. Almost every birthday. And this year he's trying to take me skiing.
But that's common ground.
It's not business. But we were so focused at an early age, and so that it didn't matter. And then you never complained about, it wasn't like you wanted the house and the kids and all that, or you didn't care about the cars or anything. It was about building the business.
Right.
I mean, we moved from a nice house to a horrible house where we got burglarized. I would come home, my truck was on blocks. It was bad. And because we wanted to lower our expenses so that we could keep just focusing on the business, keep investing in real estate. And you never complained. And then you also, you were fine with waiting for kids. You were fine with waiting. What was the other thing I was mentioned? Go ahead.
No, I'm just thinking, I get that. So yes, we are on this path. We're going together, right? In the same pace. And for those that are listening to this, how do you keep going on that same pace, right? So that way you're not, because it's just, I guess, natural where you're going to have interests. I'm going to have interests, and there's in our path is going to be derailed. And how do you get back onto that right path? That's my question. Right.
Yeah.
And I think we've figured it out. We still have our strategic meetings and, planning to make sure that we are aligned and going towards the same thing, right? And I think that's important as a couple, making sure that you're meeting frequently to make sure that your goals are still the same, right?
And where were we going with that? I agree, and yes, because you're more talking about even how you keep it going for so many years. Yes, yeah. I think.
Because it's easier said than done. I think that we all think, okay, yeah, we went on this path, and we. Yeah,
and the other big thing, I think everybody's excited at the beginning. If you ever gone to a beginner's real estate investing seminar or whatever, everybody's in the room is super pumped, right?
Right.
Couples are ecstatic because they haven't got their butts kicked yet. They haven't got their faces kicked in, and they don't know anything. That go wait, see them after 6 months of them marketing and taking no's, and then see if they're as super excited as they were at the seminar. But what has helped us is you and I for 24 years have had that same drive and passion, same goals, same shared vision, and it doesn't matter. We get up the next morning and we are there at work. whatever. Because usually if you're the owner, you don't get to decide if you're calling in or not.
Right.
You didn't feel very good this morning. You still showed up, and
Still
it's
recording this podcast and it probably look like crap, but
so like you just do whatever it takes because that's what requires you out of a business. And we do that constantly, day in and day in, the consistency, which we've had many podcasts about consistency.
Yeah.
But going back to the challenges and I think first of all, this is just my opinion. I'll say my opinion because I don't know if you share the same opinion. This is and all this whole show is just our opinion and it's worked for us. But I think if you're in a dating relationship, I think at that point, like you should really focus on that's like the draft, right? And related to sports, that's like the draft. And there's no deadline, right? You don't have like a deadline when you got to call your ticket and that's where you're going to be stuck with for the next whatever. You have time. And I think if you are interested in building a business, you should make sure that person is aligned with you and shares that vision and they're willing to work just as hard, or they're willing on that same drive, whether they support you, whether they get involved. I think if you each have your own passions, and not saying that it can't be done, because I'm sure there's somebody out there that will say they've made it successful. I'm just saying it's dangerous. I think if you are, because every business is going to have seasons. Like I said before, there's going to be times where it's going to require a ton of energy and effort out of you to keep it going. There's going to be a new project, a new software implemented, and then all of a sudden you're there till midnight working on it. Well, is that spouse going to be just as excited when he's coming home every night and you're not there, or he's having to take care of the kids
Yeah.
So Joni goes to a function and she's there till midnight or she has to go travel. I can understand it because, hey, we're on a shared vision. We're working towards the same thing. She's building a company that we're building together. So if she travels or I travel and we're not together, or if I said, hey, I gotta work on this all night, can you take care of the kids and help go take them where they need to, and I got to stay and work on this or take it home with me, you understand, because we're shared the vision. So,
right.
But I think if you're separate and you don't understand it.
Well, what if the couple that, the guy has a new venture, wants to start a new business? Like how does that conversation go with the spouse that maybe does just stay home, but he wants to try this new venture.
Or she.
What advice would you give them?
I would say really communicate it and make sure that you're truly on. So if she's going to stay just a supportive role,
or maybe she wants to start the business.
Whatever one is, this is my 2 cents. This is our 2 cents. I think one has to take a more supportive role and because it's going to require so much out of that person. And so you're going to have to support in a way of either joining in with them and helping them build it. So supporting doing whatever roles and that's a different podcast, like finding your roles within a business when you work together. That's a different podcast, but either getting involved in that and having the same shared vision, goals, where you're headed, where you're driving, or get behind the significant other spouse and take off the load of things that to help so that they can be focused on the business. Meaning, like, it might be kids, it might be helping at the household stuff, it might be, I don't know, whatever. Do you get what I'm getting?
Yeah. No,
and so I think if you're going to drive your own career, or and that could be, you have your own job and that's what it is you're going to be the financial supporter of the household, while the business owner can't take an income for the first 2 to 5 years. And so you're going to be paying all the bills with your job. That might be the supporter.
Right.
That's how you're supporting, and you're helping with other stuff. So he can really, because I think people don't realize how much it's going to take out of yourself to build a business.
That's good.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes. So now that we've kind of discovered the challenges and what to look for and all of that good stuff, like, how do you balance it all? How do you balance the relationship? How do you balance, like, being a business owner, not taking it home at night? I mean, it's great when you're dating and, you get married. It was just you and I at one point, and then we put kids in the mix, and that's a whole nother challenge, right? And so how do you balance that all? Is balance even such a thing? I don't think it really is, but
I don't. I think there's. So I've always looked at it as I've tried to do balance, and I don't think it 100% works. I think there's awareness. I think you need to be aware of the decisions you make and the impacts those have on others around you. So your kids, your spouse, all that. So I think you need to be aware of that and then communicate it well and communicate it with it. So I think, like, I go back to there's seasons, and I feel like it changes and it depends on what sometimes there's really strong business needs that you have to, and then there's other times where maybe your business is running really well and maybe you have personal needs that you need to really, and maybe somebody's sick in your family or whatever, and you need to really focus on that. And so I think there's seasons but like in the last 24 years, there's times where we've had to really like just work a lot and that sacrificed on maybe time together or time, and it's never, for us, it was never like every day or it lasted a really long, there's ebbs and flows with the business and stuff. I don't know.
No, I think I love that, and somebody had said, "Be where your feet are at. Be where your feet are at." Right? And be present and in the moment, no matter what you're doing. So if you're at work, you're focused on work. That's what you're doing at that moment. When you're at home, you're focused on your family at that moment, right? And I think that's kind of how our version of balancing it, I guess, is really that.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's more, I guess, putting in constraints, or is that like boundaries? Right. Is that we have boundaries we're extremely structured. I think the busier you get, the more structure your life needs. And some people, that doesn't work for everybody.
Us, I mean, it might look completely boring to you because we have routines for everything, but it works for us. It helps us keep on track to be able to fulfill all the buckets that we have.
Correct.
Right?
Yes. Yeah. And it's time constraints, when we leave, when we enter, when we're going to work out, which everything's very planned and very mundane.
Side note, but our kids also are very structured. Correct. And so our kids have gone to bed at 8:30 since they were little. They know no different, right? Even when their friends come over to play or whatever, they're like, "You guys go to bed at 8:30? That's early." Yeah. But they know no different. They get their sleep and they're healthy, smart kids.
Yeah. And it works for us. And then it allows for you and I to have time when outside of work, everything's shut down, the kids are in bed, dogs put away. It's time for just you and I. So it works for us as well. Right. So, but we have those structure. If we didn't have that, who knows, like it would be all over the place and nothing would be planned. At least we know when we can connect, when we can connect with the kids, when we're at work. And with all of this too, I think you got to put in massive effort. I think there's sometimes people that do have routines and morning routines and all this stuff, you still had to put forth massive effort. Yeah. And that's one thing that regardless of all of that we're talking about today, you and I just when we select that we're going to do something, we put a lot of effort behind it. So, because I've had a lot of people, and there's people that we've tried to mentor, and it's like
they're not willing to do it.
They might set up a routine and all that, but then they don't put any effort. They just like go through the motions, and that's not going to work.
Yeah.
But going back to what can you do aside from having a shared vision and goal? I think building a support system, which can be, your networks, mentorship, like-minded individuals supporting you. I think you need to have, a support system.
Yeah. And I think with that, because I do believe, you have to have a support system, whether it's, coaches, mentors, masterminds, whatever that is, right? Together as well.
Correct.
But I also think that, and we learned this early on, where we had to say no a lot.
Correct.
Right. To outside things, whether it's events or parties with family and friends and all of that. Right. Because it wasn't part of our vision. It wasn't part of our goals. In order for us to get to where we needed to be, we had to say no.
Correct. Yeah. And that's the other as I mentioned before, Joni and I don't have very many outs. We have friends, but we don't like do a lot of things separate from that. If we do something with friends, it's usually as a couple. But we don't. I think that goes along with your point. We are very time sensitive, and we don't do a lot of things outside and separate. And we've said no a lot to a lot of different things. It's again goes back to being boring, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
The other thing I think with the support system is like for us, what's really worked is the help with the nanny. So like we have somebody that when we're both, since Joni and I are both very involved in the business and very active and very day to day, there's somebody that needs to pick up the kids. There's somebody that needs to do our laundry, make our food.
And let's talk about that, because I think early on when forever I wanted to do it, right? Like I was this Wonder Woman. I can do it all. Like I can, pick up the kids. I can cook dinner. I can wash clothes, and I can build a business, right? And I think as moms, we think that we can do, and you can. I'm not saying you can't, but it sure does make life a lot easier. And, how I look at it too, though, is because my kids are well taken care of. Their homework is done, all of that. That way, when I get home at night, I can really spend time with them, watching a movie with them, actually like doing one-on-one stuff rather than being stressed out and yelling because I'm overworked from the office and now I have to do all these things at home and not really spending that quality time.
Correct.
You know what I mean?
And I understand that takes financial commitment, and that I'm just telling you what's really worked for us the last, I don't know how, I guess since the kids are born.
It's like having a VA. I mean, what's your time worth, right?
Correct. Yeah. So
you have to look at it like that.
We've been very blessed to have some really great help. And so that it just makes your life a lot easier to have somebody support. So it's in that case, like it could be a spouse that does that if they're supportive and they're just staying home and just one person. But in our case, where both are very involved in the same business, it really makes a night and day difference to have somebody that can take care of that stuff 100%. For the home. So, self-care and prioritizing relationships. So talk a little bit about what I think, to have a healthy relationship while building a business, you also got to prioritize the relationship, which we kind of talked about a little bit already, and also some self-care, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So again, I think one thing that Joni loves is baths. So that's one thing that you take a bath every single night, but that's your
like decompose and get my mind off of things. And
it's like almost it's like religious, but that's like, so she has her time and it decompresses her, it relaxes her. For me, it's probably, I need like an hour of TV, right? And it just allows me to shut off my mind, and I can zone out. And so that's how we take. For you. That's what our self-care looks like. But we also exercise, frequently. We do, we take care of ourselves. And I think working out has helped us a lot. Morning meditation and being thankful, waking up in the morning helps a lot.
But I think if you're going to be able to take care of your staff and your family and all of that and your business, you have to be able to take care of yourself, right?
Correct. So, I think take care of yourself. You have to be, or else you can't take care of others. And then prioritize the relationship. So, really for Joni and I, it's been, kind of God first, Joni and I's relationship second, and then our kids, and then the business, and then, whatever else after that. So, but that's a decision we've made. I understand that doesn't work for everybody. I'm just telling you what works for us. So that means that we prioritize, I don't care, and we've had this conversation. I don't care how big a business we build, or if the relationship didn't survive, say we built some Amazon, right? Or something like that, but we went through a divorce, I would say and you could argue that, but for us, the relationship was more important than how far we got in business. Correct?
100%.
Yeah. And for us, it is more important, our relationship with our kids, than our business. And that's why we've had to make some decisions, and we've had to make some cuts and do some things like, hey, we don't have to have the biggest business. We don't have to have the biggest everything.
Yeah.
Because the relationship with you and I, and then a relationship with our kids was more important
Right.
than how much money we made.
Yeah, 100%.
So that's our prioritization. And so but you should talk about that.
Right.
And if you guys aren't on the same page as a spouse, then you're probably.
And I think that's prioritizing your relationship can sometimes be a challenge because there are just a lot of things going on in life, right? Things are being thrown at you left and right. And I think it's easy to say that that's kind of the one thing that kind of, I don't know, gets brushed underneath the rug, right? Because we're not prioritizing that. So I think that really being aware and mindful of your relationship, where it is and where you need to work on it, and having those designated times where you and your spouse are meeting together, because if it's not on the calendar, a lot of times it's not going to happen. Mm-hmm. Right. And we've seen that before. We're like, oh man, like today is a rough day today. Like, I don't think we wanted to go out tonight, but I don't think it's going to happen. Mm-hmm. Right. And so like, you just have to be really mindful of that because life does get busy and you have to put those things in your calendar to make sure that you're making your relationship a priority.
Yeah. And so for us, like you and I at least need once a month, maybe every couple of weeks, just you and I time to go out and it's usually, we still talk a little bit about business. It comes up.
It's hard. I mean, we try, you go out to dinner and it's the first thing that comes out and we try to like,
no business.
Be aware of it and call somebody or each other out when we're doing that. But when you're building a business together, it's just natural to come out. Correct.
So, but we spend time together. And it's okay. And I don't think we should beat each other up because you know what? Like we're both passionate about it. Mm-hmm. It is a way that you and I connect. And so I can still connect with you on an emotional level about our goals and our vision when it comes to like the business or vice versa. Like there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
We're still connecting because we're still passionate. We're still driving towards something. We're still it's a challenge that we're overcoming and we're working through it together. And that's what relationships about. Right.
Right.
I mean, and so whether it's about a kid or about it with something else, I mean, it's still, so it doesn't matter. I think it's okay. We still,
but you do it all the time. Yeah.
We still keep it in balance. So, we need time together, you and I and so we take that, you and I travel at least once a quarter together somewhere because we like that. And it could be short trips. It doesn't have to be anything long, but it just helps us connect and prioritize the relationship. There's times where I'll tell you like, hey, I'm not feeling the connection that I normally do with you. And that's usually meaning we're not prioritizing the relationship. We're not vice versa. One of us
going through the motions.
We're going through routines and we're not prioritizing. We're not making each other a priority. And so that's usually like, wait, we got to stop. What am I doing? Why am I not focusing on him or her? And so if that's us, that's it.
But again, that's being self-aware, which, it's good. That's going to happen. It's natural for that to happen, but how can you bounce back quickly and fix it when, you are feeling disconnected or when you are feeling like the other side is not making yourself a priority, right?
Yeah. So is there anything else that you would say to keep it going, keep the harmony going,
I think communication, we talked about this earlier on. Communication is key. It's when you're not on the same page, sometimes it's hard to get the communication out. But I think that's the biggest takeaway from this episode is be where your feet are, be aware, be present in the moment, right? Yeah. Wherever you are.
And mine would be, my biggest takeaway would be having a shared vision and goal. I think that's the one thing that has, I would say always held us together as we're building our business and our relationship and everything is that, and it's not that if we didn't have a business, we wouldn't have a relationship. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying like, because we could have a shared vision about something else. It could be a charity. It could be just anything else.
Yeah,
but
your vision could be to travel around the world. Like the thing is that you should have a shared vision.
Correct. And goals. And so.
Doesn't have to be about business. It can be about anything.
Correct. And because then you work towards that, and there's always going to be problems and challenges. But if you're working together, you're overcoming them together, you're experiencing life together. And I think that's what creates a thriving relationship.
Absolutely.
So we'll end on that note. But yeah, that was a good one. Was it spicy?
It was spicy. I thought it was spicy. Hope you thought it was spicy. Give us your tips and what works for you in your relationship, and we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, we would love to hear more from all the listeners and what works for you in your relationship. And we definitely don't know it all, so please share with us your tips and tricks, and we'll see you all next week.
Yep. See you, everyone.
You've been listening to Inside the Wolf's Den, an entrepreneurial journey with Shawn and Joni Wolfswinkel. Tons of entrepreneurial podcasts are out there. Talking. But Joni and Shawn are living it every single day. Their portfolio now includes many franchises and medium-sized businesses. We talk about the trials and motivators of successfully running a business. Join us again soon for another podcast. But until then, reach out on the website at InsideTheWolfsDen.com, on Facebook at Inside the Wolf's Den, on Instagram at Inside the Wolf Den. We'll see you again soon. This is Inside the Wolf's Den. We'll see you next time.